for our 10th year, Hiring Our Heroes is honored to kick off this celebration by giving away a brand new Toyota vehicle to help recognize Staff Sergeant Oakman's service and to be able to impact her life in a meaningful way.
Good afternoon. My name is Eric Eversole, and I am the president of Hiring Our Heroes. Welcome to today's launch of a military spouse employment empowerment, economic empowerment zone for remote workforce opportunities. Today's event is important and, quite frankly, long overdue. We all know about the transitory nature of military life, move after move, one duty station after the next, and those moves are often executed on a moment's notice. For military spouses, it's more than just packing boxes or unpacking boxes. For many, it involves the loss of a job, uncertainty, and in some cases, economic instability for the family. It's a vicious cycle that repeats itself time and time again. So wouldn't it be great if military spouses could take a career with them, no matter where or when the military decides to move them? That possibility, remote workforce opportunities, seemed like a, quite frankly, remote opportunity just a couple years ago. But if the last year and a half has taught us anything, it's taught us that not only are remote workforce opportunities possible, but businesses thrive when they empower their employees to be able to work remotely to focus on getting the job done and accomplishing the mission. In fact, over the last year, more than a third of all Americans have reported that they either currently work remotely or that they have worked remotely. And this trend, and it's more than just a trend, this change, dramatic change in the workforce is going to continue as we continue to move forward because it works for businesses and their most valuable asset, their people. For military spouses, this change is in fact a game changer. It will allow them to advance their careers while they continue to serve through supporting their service members in the military. It will relieve stress, provide financial certainty, and is important, this is an important and, it will help military retention. It's the proverbial win-win-win. Our remote military spouse economic empowerment zone will help build a large coalition of businesses and community partners focused on remote employment for military spouses and empower those companies to find, employ, and retain military spouses, regardless of where they live. It will make a significant difference for military spouses and the country they serve. So thank you for being here. Thank you for participating. Thank you for your commitment to our service members and, importantly, military spouses. And we look forward to the great impact that we're going to be able to achieve together. It's now my honor to introduce to you Mrs. Holly Ann Milley, who's a cardiac nurse and also the spouse of General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Mrs. Milley?
Thank you, Eric Meredith, and the Hiring Our Heroes. Thank you, Eric Meredith, and the Hiring Our Heroes team, and thank you for hosting today's event. You have made such a difference for our military spouses, veterans, and caregivers over the past 10 years, and it is an honor for me to be a part of today's Remote Military Spouse Economic Empowerment Zone launch. Thank you for joining us today as we come together to highlight opportunities for remote and portable careers for military spouses. As a military spouse for more than 36 years,
it's that it can be done and done well. The remote opportunity, MSEEZ, will connect spouses with employers train businesses on best hiring practices, and build awareness about the benefits of remote opportunities for the military community. We are calling on you to step up, like you always have, and join this effort. Become an active member of the remote working group. Find out just how incredible this community is and how much value it creates. Help recruit other partners, because when we empower our military spouses, men and women who are educated, adaptable, and experienced leaders, they strengthen the organizations they join. And when husbands and wives have the chance to thrive in their careers, our service members can focus on their mission without worrying that their family is struggling. That's why supporting military spouse employment is a national security imperative. 10 years ago, so many of you went to your strengths for our veterans. You brought innovation, ingenuity, and determination to that mission. Now we have the chance to do it again for military spouses, women and men who sacrifice for us every day with dedication, resilience, loyalty, and love for the nation we all call home. God bless our troops and their families. It's that it can be done and done well. The Remote Opportunity MSEEZ will connect spouses with employers, train businesses on best hiring practices, and build
of remote work. It's about harnessing what employer partners and military spouses bring to the workforce and starting to usher in the future of work from right here in our homes. We began this process during COVID-19, and now is the time to continue with it as we look to the future. So how will we do that? And what does it mean for today's workforce? I want to share a few statistics with you this afternoon that will really help us to understand the power of remote work and how military spouses continue to be positioned as the premier remote workforce for America. So let me start with just a couple. Teleworkers are on average 35 to 40% more productive than their office counterparts. Companies who harness remote work experience 41% lower absenteeism. And if that's not getting you excited about remote work opportunities, let me tell you just a little bit more. 54% of today's employees, and I'm not just talking about military spouses, I'm talking about all employees, say they would change jobs for a more flexible opportunity. People want remote work, and they are willing to go out there and find it and to change opportunities to find one that works for them. And lastly, organizations save on average $11,000 per year per part-time telecommuter by choosing remote work. But what does that mean for military spouses? That might be the incredible business case for continuing with remote work. But what does it mean for all of us? It means portability. It means job security. It means talent is leveraged. It means opportunity for advancement. It means mental well-being. And it means a more resilient military force. And this afternoon, I am so thrilled to introduce to you a woman who understands that perhaps better than any of us, a military mother and our First Lady of the United States, Dr. Jill Biden.
Thank you to the entire Hiring Our Heroes team, and of course, a huge thank you to the First Lady and Mrs. Milley for all of your efforts to support military spouse employment. I'm Amy Youthy, Freedom Learning Group's Chief People Officer, and I'm the spouse of a U.S. Army veteran. In my role at FLG, I lead efforts related to human resources, recruiting, workforce development, and company culture. FLG entered the educational courseware services industry in 2017 with a cutting-edge business model intentionally designed to attract military spouses, veterans, and displaced professionals by offering remote, flexible, freelance opportunities. Prior to joining FLG, I worked for 6 years at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Early in my career at the Chamber, I was a member of the Hiring Our Heroes team, and I'm thrilled to once again be partnering with HOH to support military spouse employment initiatives. FLG was founded by a Marine Corps family. Our CEO, Liz O'Brien, is an Army spouse, and every member of our leadership team has military community affiliation. So the mission of Hiring Our Heroes and the remote MSEEZ is critical to our team, both professionally and personally. At FLG, we believe the future of work is both flexible and virtual. FLG is a 100% remote company composed of contributors spanning 40 states and 10 countries. And I'm proud to share that since inception, military spouses and veterans have earned over $6.5 million for their freelance work at FLG. Additionally, 74% of our workforce identifies as female and 63% as military spouses and veterans, representing all 6 branches. Through our Training Hub program, we offer career advancement opportunities and formal training to ensure our workforce is successful on day one and beyond. Training Hub focuses on upskilling our community while providing meaningful and customizable learning paths. Recently, we also released a white paper titled Women in the Workforce: Recommendations for Creating Flexible and Remote Opportunities. This white paper challenges businesses to be a landing zone for women seeking professional opportunities at every stage of their career while sharing FLG's successes as a global remote workforce. Today, I'm honored to join you as the chair of the Remote Military Spouse Economic Empowerment Zone. This is the first remote working group of its kind designed to specifically target remote work opportunities for military spouses. I believe the future of work is rapidly evolving, and I know that military spouses are leading this charge by globally exemplifying to employers a successful remote workforce is possible. In my role at FLG, I see it every day. Remote MSEEZ will develop workforce solutions for military spouses by collaborating with government, industry, business, and nonprofit partners. I'm committed to breaking the cycle of under and unemployment of military spouses by creating workforce-focused change, leading to socioeconomic mobility through remote and flexible jobs. We will leverage this working group through the utilization of 3 key pillars: hire, train, and advocate. And it's my pleasure to introduce each pillar chair now. To kick us off, I'm pleased to introduce our hire chair, Brianna Pruitt, Director of People Operations at Instant Teams.
Thank you, Amy. Like she said, I am Brianna Pruitt, a naval spouse and Director of People Operations at Instant Teams. I am very fortunate to represent them and the military spouse community in this exciting opportunity with MSEEZ. For those of you who are not familiar with Instant Teams, it is our mission to find and provide meaningful and transferable remote work for military spouses and the military-connected community. Our founders, 2 military spouses themselves, saw the untapped potential of military spouses and created Instant Teams to reach the underserved community. Instant Teams builds and manages remote teams using a combination of proprietary technology and the largest database of military-connected remote workers in the industry. We use this database to build teams that support organizations in customer, operational, sales, and technical support. We are a novel concept in that we are where remote works, providing both domestic and international remote job opportunities. Instant Teams advocates for military spouses in that we are different and we know it, as we know that frequent moves or family situations often show on resumes as time away from the workforce. At Instant Teams, we focus on skills, skills, and more skills to allow us to match each candidate with job opportunities based on their skill set, not just on experience alone. We advocate to organizations that those perceived gaps are skill-enhancing opportunities, and the potential that awaits is great. Our role is to continue advocacy with the help of MSEEZ and the other chair members to show organizations that remote work and the underserved population of military spouses is knocking at their virtual doorstep. There is an underserved and untapped community at their fingertips, and we are forging the way to find employment opportunities.
Brianna, and thanks for all that you do. Now, I'm thrilled to turn the floor over to our train chair, Jenny Boyles, Success and Marketing Manager at Freedom Makers Virtual Assistant Services.
Hi, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here. I was fortunate enough to start working remotely 5 years ago when I became a virtual assistant for Freedom Makers after a 15-year career gap. My background is in museum administration, but when I met my Marine back in 1999, I was plucked from the Smithsonian, my dream job, and had trouble thereafter finding equivalent work as we traveled around the world with his career. In 2016, I was more than ready to rejoin the career environment. Thankfully, I came upon Freedom Makers and remote work. At Freedom Makers, it is our mission to provide meaningful, flexible work for military spouses around the globe as we strengthen and grow businesses through excellent, customized administrative support. We have provided thousands of hours of work to military spouses all over the world. This year alone, we have created over $150,000 in income for military spouses in virtual assistant work. As a success manager for our military spouse community at Freedom Makers, I ensure that we provide resources and training to our community to strengthen their remote work skills. As a military spouse who had a long career gap, I am passionate about helping others maintain their careers. Remote work has provided me with a lot of financial and personal growth, and I believe that anybody can make it happen, and I want to help them get there. As the train chair of the remote MSEEZ, my goal is to help military spouses start a remote work journey or pivot to one. First, we will help them locate the resources they need to find remote work opportunities. We will also provide professional development opportunities that will help them understand what it means to work in a remote work environment. It will be our goal to provide bilateral training opportunities for businesses and military spouses to reduce and underemployment. Ultimately, we want to provide military spouses the tools and understanding for meaningful work that will be long-lasting and enduring. We kick off our efforts in October with our two-part series on making the pivot to remote work. We will discuss the application and interviewing process, as well as how military spouses can market and prep themselves for the remote work environment. I look forward to being a part of this working group, from learning from everybody who are members, and helping military spouses find fulfilling remote work.
Thanks, Jenny. I look forward to working with you. And last but not least, our Advocate Chair, Tim Parlatori, Managing Partner at Parlatori Law Group.
Thank you very much, Amy. So my name is Tim Parlatori of Parlatori Law Group, which is a nationwide, entirely cloud-based law firm. We started this law firm 3 years ago on the principle of everybody working remotely, originally the purpose was to get rid of all the overhead so we could provide legal services at a more affordable rate to clients. But as the firm started to grow, we realized that it also provided a phenomenal employment opportunity for a lot of attorneys, and in particular, military spouse attorneys. We've grown to 35 attorneys nationwide, and actually worldwide, because we have people in Japan, South Korea, Hawaii, and about half of our attorneys are military spouses who their physical location and their license may not be in the same place, but through the remote work opportunities, they can still practice by teleworking, to wherever their license is. Additionally, of our support staff, approximately 85% of those are military spouses. So we've been doing this for the past 3 years pre-COVID. And what we've seen is in the past year and a half, a lot of the principles that we put into place have become a lot more widespread and something that this country really needs, because I can speak from my personal experience of being able to build this law firm and to attract some incredibly talented people that otherwise most brick and mortar firms would never even want to interview because of the transient nature of the military lifestyle. So I'm very happy to join MSEEZ in the advocate chair position, because I want to be able to take that and bring it to the next level. There are so many aspects of work life that present these obstacles, things like licensing from one state to another, that can be advocated to try and increase the portability of licenses, things like taxes, even things like treaties. Under the status of forces agreement in the various foreign countries where we have people stationed, it affects how people are able to work because they were written at a time when remote work didn't even exist. And so I have had some incredibly talented people that I've wanted to hire stationed in Italy that because of the SOFA agreement, we've been unable to. So this is just one of many examples of things that we want to identify these shortfalls, identify hurdles to employment, and find ways to advocate for change, because a lot of these rules were written at a time when remote work didn't exist. Well, now it does. And so now we need to update those regulations and those rules to remove the further barriers and give these people the employment opportunities that they deserve. And more importantly, speaking from the employer's standpoint, we benefit by having these people working in our organizations. Myself, I am a Navy veteran, although, as my wife loves to remind me, I am currently a military spouse as well. So thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Tim. And now it's my pleasure to formally present to you the remote MSEEZ chairs who will work side by side with our working group to lead this important effort. Thanks again to Tim, Jenny, and Brianna. I look forward to working with you. For years, the military spouse community has advocated for employers to transition in-person roles to remote roles, offering more opportunities for portability and stable employment through permanent change of station moves. Our next speaker will share her experience with remote employment as a military spouse and what it means to military spouses across the globe to have these opportunities. Please welcome Terry Miller, Senior Academic Advisor at UC San Diego.
Thank you so much, Amy. And thank you to the Hiring Our Heroes team. I want to dream out loud with you for a minute. And if you're not a military spouse, imagine that you are for just a few minutes. We're going to dream about blooming where you're planted. It's a part of the military spouse life that is so tough. So what if you could bloom a little bit easier by creating one area of consistency during your life transitions, that area being your career? What if you worked for a company that understood the transitions that we face? And what if you could request time off or take fewer projects instead of quitting before every PCS? When I was an education services specialist in Okinawa, I can't count the number of spouses I met who arrived on island ambitious, excited, curious, open-minded, maybe a little jaded and exhausted too. But they came to me with one goal in mind. How do I start or continue my career while living overseas? They shared their stories with me of incomplete college credits, expired certifications, jobs they loved, careers they had to forgo. I think about these spouses and the doors that the remote MSEEZ will open for them. Here's a little bit of my story. As a senior academic advisor at UC San Diego, I was blooming, and not just blooming, but flourishing for 4 years when it was time for my husband, my daughters, and I to PCS overseas. Unfortunately, not my master's degree, not my 12 years of experience, or my ability to adapt, improvise, and overcome. could save me from having to start over again. And I would spend 2 years overseas working, researching, going back to graduate school, exploring certifications and networking to figure out how to integrate remote flexibility into my next career move. I was overwhelmed with imposter syndrome, trying to figure it out, how to crack that code. And I did it alone. I dare say that my search would have gone a little differently if I had the remote MSEEZ to support me. I think of companies like Squared Away and the Freedom Learning Group, which you've heard about already, and the fact that these companies were created out of that untapped military spouse talent. So they took action. And these are two companies that positively impacted my journey toward remote work, but they're also just two of the companies that are closing the gap on military spouse and underemployment. This year brought a lot of change to my family. I had to quit yet another job I loved in preparation for my husband's EAS from the Marine Corps. And in the middle of that EAS prep, I lost my father. And my kids and I had to trek across the world back to our hometown in Virginia to support my mother. Meanwhile, my husband traded his aviator wings for a gavel and went back to school, law school. And we did it during a pandemic. So truly, remote work has been a blessing to me and my family during this transition. I'll leave you with this cool story of how it happened for me. A month after returning to the US, my former boss at UC San Diego left me a voicemail. Hey, Terry, not sure if you're in Japan or if you're back in America, but we've been given the thumbs up to hire someone remotely. We're short-staffed. I need to hire someone now, and I want you. Wherever you are, we'll make it work. Give me a call when you get a chance. They had supported me through 2 7-month deployments, countless debts, 2 maternity leaves, so much time off for homecomings, squadron events, Marine Corps balls, pre-deployment, post-deployment leave, not to mention a few mental health days because the going got really tough sometimes. I had to quit this job to PCS to Japan, and still they wanted me. So naturally, I said yes. And now I'm so grateful that I'm able to continue that upward mobility in my career, to provide for my family, and to be present during this transitional season that we're in. And I'm thankful that when I needed it most, my job showed up for me. And that's what I hope for military spouses who want it: gainful employment, remote flexibility, and employees who look beyond the fact that military families move and see the skills, the experience, and the dedication that we bring. Employers who can appreciate the fact that military spouses will always, always, always bloom where we're planted. Thank you, Amy.
Terry, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story and discussing the positive impacts remote employment opportunities offer military spouses. I really appreciate it. This next discussion will feature representatives leading the charge in military spouse employment and remote work. It's my pleasure to welcome USAA, Amazon, and Grow with Google to the virtual stage. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. Before we get started, let's just do a quick round of introductions. So we'll start with Chrissy Johnson, Senior Talent Strategist for USAA. Thanks, Chrissy. And now we'll turn it over to Beth Conlin, Senior Program Manager, Military Spouse Programs at Amazon. Beth, over to you.
Thanks, Amy. Hi, everyone. My name is Beth Conlin. I am an active duty Army spouse and currently the Senior Program Manager for Military Spouse Programs at Amazon. I've been working in the military spouse employment space for about the last 6 years, and I'm so happy to see the progress that has been made in private and public sectors alike. While I know there is still more work to do, it's initiatives like this that will truly help move the needle. I'm excited to have this conversation with everyone today.
Thanks, Beth. And finally, Brona Friel, Program Lead at Grow with Google.
Hi, Amy. Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't find my unmute button. Hi, everyone. I'm Brona. I am on the Grow with Google team, and I lead our efforts for veteran and military families. I'm coordinating both internally and externally with many employers and amazing nonprofits in the space. So I'm so excited to be here for this great launch today. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Brona, and thanks again to all of the panelists for being here today. So to kick us off, I'm going to turn it over to Brona. As companies learn to thrive in a remote work environment, the natural opportunities for engagement and interaction at the water cooler look a little different. What are the top 3 strategies employers can implement to create a high-functioning remote culture that helps employees feel connected?
Yeah, that's a great question, Amy. You know, we heard from Eric, Mrs. Millie, Meredith, Amy, and amazing work, Terry. Just so thrilled to hear from you today. All about the importance of making sure that people are set up for success ultimately, and they're going to flourish in their career. And so kind of as a people manager myself at Google, and as a people manager of folks directly related to military affairs, whether that's in the reserve and so on, it's really, really important that I make sure that at least on my side, that we're harnessing a really strong team culture. And of course, we see that from the top down. It's really important to make sure folks feel engaged and empowered in all of their work, wherever or regardless of where they're doing it. I think I heard, you know, the great connection from Meredith on mental health throughout all of this work. And you know, the pandemic certainly over this time period is really taking its toll. So I think it's really important where possible, where employers can just recognize that we're all human here and we're all dealing with this in our own unique way. And we might all be brave in the same ocean and the same, you know, storm, but all of us have very different ships. And I think it's really important to remember that. And so there's a couple of things that we have put into practice that I think, you know, are very tangible and tactical that still make a difference. So as I mentioned, mental health days where needed, no meeting Fridays, and basically checking in human to human and making sure that folks see there's meaning in their work and they feel supported throughout, you know, everything that they do. I think the other thing that's really important, and I've heard a lot of touch points today on policies and making sure that the policies are actually working for the folks that need them most. And I think, you know, as part of this actually came from a military spouse at Google, where we actually last year launched 5 days of paid leave for military spouses and domestic partners every time their service member receives orders, you know, given all of the hands-on work that is really required. Eric touched on that earlier, and making sure that during this stressful time, work is not one thing that is weighing them down. So making sure that policies are flexible and there's room for team adaptability and resilience as well, because whenever you value your team members, you're going to get a lot of trust and a lot of, I guess, commitment. So that all plays into retention, which Meredith touched on. And then the final thing that I would say is, like, good work is happening everywhere. Like the past 18 months to 2 years are actually showing that. And I think, you know, it's really important for employers to recognize this. And, you know, the pandemic has changed the way we're working. And I think there's really room for us to develop more tools to collaborate, opportunities for professional development, you know, recognizing, as I said, that great work can be done wherever folks are, and making sure that there's portability there where possible.
I could not agree more. So many great ideas there. And this really kind of tees up the next question, which is for Chrissy. You know, we all know that the pandemic has fundamentally changed business operations across the globe. And employers had to quickly pivot to a remote model that they may not have been necessarily ready for. For companies seeking to implement permanent remote or hybrid employment to their workforce, what are some factors they should consider?
Thank you, Amy. Remote opportunities increase the talent pool. Companies considering adding permanent remote employment to their workforce should consider providing robust talent acquisition and talent acquisition development programs. They should engage and participate in fellowships, such as the Hiring Our Heroes Spouse Fellowship Program. Companies should consider supporting jobs that allow military spouses to work remotely when they relocate. By having executive leadership buy-in, there will be support and advocacy. Through support, the business can establish work-life balance, which considers the mental well-being of the employee and how remote opportunities impact spousal retention. Unfortunately, some roles cannot be full remote opportunities, but companies should also consider allowing for hybrid models due to unique situations.
Thanks, Chrissy. And you're absolutely right. I mean, every company and situation is different. And I think that that kind of plays up into this next question that I have that's for Beth. Again, before the pandemic, many companies had employees that were working from a specified physical location. Can you talk to us about how the pandemic changed that for Amazon and how you'll maintain remote roles moving forward? And then taking that a step further, any advice that you have for employers who want to maintain remote work?
Yes, absolutely. So to be quite transparent, Amazon was not a remote friendly company prior to the pandemic. We really thrived in that in-person interaction on a daily basis. So when we had to take a hard pivot into virtual work, it was a challenge, as you can imagine, for a company this big, as I'm sure a lot of the folks on the line can appreciate. When you have to completely change your culture overnight, it's not easy. The military spouse community at Amazon really helped lead that charge. We actually helped show our counterparts how to work in really uncertain times, how to be productive when you're not sure when things are going to go back to normal or not. So the military spouse community really was an example for how you can effectively work virtually. And because of that, Amazon now has an exception to policy for military spouses to remain working virtual. And so that's a policy that it came out of this challenging time that we've all been going through, and something that will continue to benefit the military population moving forward. But more importantly, I want to talk to the employers on the line that are looking at this opportunity and wondering what they can do. And what I will say is that employers that choose now to innovate the way that they engage with the workforce are those employers that are going to come out ahead when we get out of this pandemic. Those employers are going to figure out how to engage with diverse and dynamic workforce, regardless of where they are. Those are the employers that are going to benefit from diversity of thought, inclusion in their workforce, which we all know breeds innovation. And again, will bring those employers to the forefront. And the best way to do that, if you're scared about where to start or how to try this remote work or how to expand those geographic boundaries, start with the military spouse population. We literally represent all things to all people. If you need entry-level employees, look at military spouses. If you need senior tenured employees, look at military spouses. If you need engineers or PhDs or attorneys or customer service associates, look at military spouses. You can pilot an onboarding program with 5 employees over here and 20 employees over here and see what works best. Take the time now to leverage the situation that we're in, engage with a dynamic and diverse workforce to innovate the way you work within the talent pools around you. And I guarantee you, you will be the companies on top in the future.
Again, couldn't agree more. I love to just hear how the military spouse community really helped Amazon through the beginning stages of the pandemic, but no surprise, which then tees up really nicely this next question that is geared at Chrissy. So we all know, again, that remote and portable career opportunities for military spouses are crucial to economic stability. And we also all know that hiring military spouses is just good business. So what advice would you give to your industry and to your peers about why hiring military spouses is a good business move?
This is a great follow-up question to Beth's last comment, because she's absolutely right. And through the research, the IVMF, the Institute for Veteran and Military Families, it shows that the propositions for the value of the military affiliate include high levels of trust, a depth at skills transfer, advanced technical training, they're comfortable in irregular environments. Peers in the industry should know that spouses have high levels of resiliency. strong organizational commitment, advanced team building skills, diverse work settings, and cross-cultural experiences. Overall, tapping into the military spouse talent pool will provide expertise, extensive educational backgrounds, to Beth's point, and military spouses have shown time and time again that they are adaptable. Therefore, hiring veterans and spouses are crucial to the mission of any organization.
Thanks, Chrissy. Taking that a step further and kind of pivoting the message a little more to the spouse community that's on with us today. Beth, again, I'm making some very obvious statements here. The beauty and challenge of remote roles is that you can get talent from around the globe, and this often leads to hundreds of job seekers applying for one unique role. So what steps can a military spouse take to really differentiate themselves and stand out when they're applying for a remote position?
I think that this question is so important because I think there's a lot of advice to be shared when it comes to this. So I will try and give just really tactical, actionable advice that military spouses that are in the audience can take advantage of. So number one, understand the company that you're applying to. If you are applying to a company that is on this call, then you are applying to a military spouse friendly company, and therefore lean into your military spouse background. Do not be afraid to self-identify. If there's an option during the application, if there's a checkbox during your application, check that box. Do not be afraid to put in your professional summary at the top that you're a military spouse with X number of years in ABC and a background in XYZ. Assuming, of course, that is tailored to the role you are applying to. As military spouses, a lot of us have a really mixed background, and I'm sure we could qualify for one of 5 very, very, very different roles. So it's really on you to tell the story you want the recruiter to hear. Don't be so concerned about the chronological order of your background. Focus more on why you know you're perfect for that role. We've all had that moment where we've seen a job online and we're like, that is the job for me, that I could do that job. Tell that story to the recruiter. Put that in your professional summary. Don't hide any of those details. Stay away from vague things like energized leader or brilliant collaborator. Great, and I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are both of those things. But really focus on what are the job duties, what are the requirements, and is this company a military-friendly company? And if so, lean into all 3 of those things and really make it clear, make it impossible for that recruiter to say no. Give that recruiter a chance to look at your resume and go, oh, let me talk to them. Really don't hide from your background. Don't hide from your experiences. Leverage your diversity of experience to show that you bring value add to that opportunity. And then engage with employers. Everyone on this call has some program that reaches out to the military spouse community. So take advantage of those webinars, networking events, job fairs. Go and talk to them. The more you understand the culture of the companies that you're looking to, the better you can align your fit with your career goals against these companies that you're chatting with.
So many good tips there, very easily attainable. And I know you have thousands more, so we'll have to find some other time to share that with the group. This last question is back to Brona. During the pandemic, businesses learned that it is possible to have high-functioning professional remote teams. Can you tell us about your observations of the landscape and tools that really helped job seekers and employees navigate this new normal?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Amy. And Beth, can you just do a webinar? Even I think I can learn a thing or two about everything you need to share. Honestly, I was taking notes. Listen, I think there's a couple of things, right? We ran research with Hiring Our Heroes and Burning Glass and really found that there was such a disconnect between military spouses and their ability to find really high quality remote work. At the end of the day, we want to make sure military spouses find a long-term flourishing career, as Terry says, not just a job. And so, one of the things that we're trying to make sure to drive awareness of is a tool that we had launched actually way before the pandemic hit. It was for military spouses, and it's just a simple Google search where you can type in remote jobs or work from home jobs directly into the Google search bar. And there's a tool that will provide all of the remote jobs. You can tailor that to your country and if needed, in time zone or whatever's needed. But I think that is just one thing that was fairly critical for us to bring to the forefront. And of course, the users, or the daily active users, as we talk about at Google, shot up as a result of COVID, unfortunately, and people are really looking for these remote work opportunities and continuing to do so, actually, as we progress through this year and next with the pandemic. The other thing I would say is, and it's come up a bunch on this call, is portability and credentials, and just making sure that the skill set, the knowledge, and the expertise are able to move alongside a military spouse. And I think that's pretty critical. I spend all of my time in Google working on the Google Career Certificates. They're live in data analytics, IT support, project management, and user experience design. Now, knowing that military spouses are some of the most highly educated people that you'll ever meet, these certificates are more entry level, but it's a really good idea for a military spouse potentially to take it if they're a career switcher or looking just for a new job in a high growth field. We see that there's 1.3 million open jobs in the US alone across all of these fields. And listen, we know that there's more to it than a rapid reskilling program, and that's why we're partnering. Actually, I'm an amazing company because we partner with Amazon, USAA, FLG. Basically, so many employers recognize the rigor behind the certificate and have signed up to interview folks with the certificate. Some amazing employers, and there's some exciting announcements coming down the pike, so I don't want to ruin it, but some amazing employers are actually using the certificates to reskill their current workforce and actually put firm hiring commitments down only for veterans and military spouses. So we're really, really excited to see that. And that's just the other thing that I would say is just making sure that you take a look at the landscape and see that is now a good time potentially for a career switch or something that will help you get your teeth into something new. So yeah.
Well, I really cannot thank all of you enough. I feel like we could talk for another hour and still have more to say, but really appreciate all of the insight you provided today, and all that you're doing to continue to keep the mission of hiring, retaining, upskilling military spouses in a remote and flexible world. All of the work that you're doing every day is so important, and I look forward to our continued partnerships. So before we conclude, I would like to introduce just one more speaker, and that is Angela Neal. And Angela is the Senior Manager of the Military Spouse Economic Empowerment Zones at Hiring Our Heroes. And she is really the brains behind all of this and has worked so hard. And Angela, it's really my pleasure to turn it over to you to wrap us up.
Thank you, Amy. And I have to end this launch of the exciting remote MSEEZ working group with gratitude. And I'm just extremely grateful for the MSEEZ working group and the work we're doing to help and underemployment for military spouses to be recognized by the White House and to have recognition on that level. It's going to do wonders for what we're doing and what we're able to accomplish. In addition, I'm just extremely grateful for the strong leadership team that we've put in place for the remote MSEEZ. We've been able to bring in brilliant minds. We have Amy Youthe from Freedom Learning Group as the chair. We have Brianna Pruitt as the hire chair from Instant Teams. We have Jenny Boyles from Freedom Makers and Timothy Palatore from Palatore Law. We just really couldn't be more grateful to have them in place and leading this charge. I'm confident in the journey that we're embarking on and know that we're on the cusp of making a significant impact in military spouse unemployment and underemployment. It's no exaggeration to say that this working group is going to change people's lives. This working group will help military spouses gain employment around the globe, and this working group will provide an opportunity for military spouses to have continuity in their employment. For businesses seeking to get involved with military spouse economic empowerment zones, please register for Discover the Talent. By registering for Discover the Talent, you're going to earn a badge that signifies that you're a military spouse-friendly hiring employer. And what this means to military spouses is that they can do just what Beth was saying and identify themselves as a military spouse. This is going to create an opportunity of equity for military spouses as they're applying for positions, because it'll open up the door for conversations about resume gaps or transferable skills and get the right people in the right places. I'm excited to say that 100% of this remote working group, which spans far more than the chairs, we have about 80 people in the working group. Every single business has registered with Discover the Talent and has identified themselves as a military spouse friendly hiring employer. If you're a military spouse, I want you to think about connecting with your local military spouse professional network. We have locations around the globe. And in addition, we have the virtual professional network if you're seeking to connect with this remote MSEEZ working group. We also have Amplify, which is a 2-day career intensive workshop geared to get military spouses set up for their next career path. It's going to help them navigate their career journey and get set up with the proper resources. We also have the opportunity, a new opportunity for military spouses to upload their resume through My Career Spark. My Career Spark is a way for you to create a profile, upload your resume, and all of these resumes are going to be obtainable by the MSEEZ working group members who are just waiting and ready to hire you for these remote employment opportunities. So I want to part again by just really touting out and just tipping my hat to this remote MSEEZ working group. Not only have we been working diligently on putting together this amazing remote MSEEZ launch, they've also behind the scenes been working on their first panel discussion. The first panel discussion is going to tackle the topic of making the pivot to remote work, the application and interview process. That's going to happen on Wednesday, October 20th at 4 p.m. And you can tune into our virtual military spouse professional network Facebook group to see more about that. Our speakers are going to be Jenny Boyles from Freedom Makers. We have William Marks from Facebook, Joshua Layton from Williams-Sonoma, and Delphine Carter from Bulo Solutions. These companies have all taken remote work to the extreme and want to share the best practices with you. So thank you again for your time. Thank you for joining us. And this is the first of many celebrations that this remote MSEEZ working group is going to have. And we truly couldn't be more grateful for you all being part of this journey. Thank you.